I'm going to help you decide which microphone you should use for podcasting or live streaming. First, you'll need to decide if you'll be going with a USB microphone or an XLR microphone. Right now, I'm using the Shure MV7, which has the ability to operate as a USB mic or an XLR mic. In USB mode, you simply connect the mic to the computer with a USB cable, and it's ready to use. In XLR mode, you'll need to connect the microphone to an audio interface and then connect the audio interface to the computer, usually with a USB cable. If you're on a strict budget, the cheapest option will be to use a USB microphone. That's because they're completely self-contained and don't require an audio interface. You can pick up a USB microphone on Amazon for as low as $30, and while I haven't tried these extremely inexpensive mics, I have tried a number of USB microphones, including the Audio-Technica AT2020 USB, the Yeti VO7U, and the Shure MV7 that you're listening to right now. These microphones all sound good enough to get started, but you may eventually begin to notice the limitations of USB microphones compared to XLR mics. USB mics are great for keeping everything consolidated into one device. Your headphones, speakers, and computer all connect to the microphone itself. I personally find this pretty annoying, though. I think it's much better to have an audio interface on my desk as the central hub so that only one XLR cable needs to connect to the microphone. It keeps everything clean and out of the way. In the future, you may want an additional microphone for a guest or for a co-host. Assuming your audio interface has multiple XLR microphone inputs, you can connect additional microphones very easily. XLR is an industry standard, so any XLR microphone you buy today will be compatible with any audio interface or mixer that you'll buy in the foreseeable future. So, if you're just looking for a way to record your voice for a solo podcast or live stream, a USB mic is a good choice. If you're more serious about podcasting and streaming, and you have goals to build your system over time, I definitely recommend starting with an XLR microphone and an audio interface. The LEWITT Connect 6 audio interface is a great option for podcasting and streaming. In fact, many of its features were designed with content creation in mind. You'll have 2 microphone inputs, an aux input, and the ability to route audio from various programs on your computer into your podcast or stream. That opens the door for recording remote interviews, playing background music and effects, and creating software tutorials. You can even connect a second computer or a mobile device using the dual USB-C connections on the back panel. The included Control Center software acts as a virtual mixer so that you can create a balanced, professional-sounding mix for your audience. You can find a link to the Connect 6 in the description below. Thank you to LEWITT for sponsoring this video. Another consideration when choosing a microphone for podcasting or streaming is the polar pattern of the microphone. The polar pattern describes the directionality of the mic. This blue Yeti is a USB microphone that can be switched between 3 different polar patterns: cardioid, bidirectional, and omnidirectional. In cardioid mode, the mic picks up sound best from the front, and it rejects sounds coming from the rear. And in omnidirectional mode, the microphone picks up sound evenly from all directions. Omnidirectional is useful if you want a microphone to record several people at once. The main issue with sharing a microphone, though, is that there will be more distance between the person speaking and the microphone, which means that you need to turn it up louder, which will result in more room noise. A bidirectional microphone could also be used to record 2 people that are facing one another, but you still need to turn it up louder to account for the extra distance from the microphone. Also, when you use a single microphone, each voice will be recorded to the same track, which makes editing a bit more difficult. Using multiple microphones will record each voice to a separate track so that you can edit them independently in post-production. By far, the most popular polar pattern for podcasting is cardioid. I'd recommend using a cardioid microphone placed just a few inches away from each person. The shorter the distance is from the microphone to the person, the less gain will be required, which helps to keep room noise and echoes to a minimum. You also get the added benefit of the proximity effect, the bass boost that's often associated with the typical radio DJ sound. Keep in mind, while this mic can be switched between various polar patterns, most microphones have a fixed polar pattern that's listed in their specifications. You'll also need to decide between a dynamic mic and a condenser mic. I recently posted a video that goes into more depth on the details, but here are the basics that you need to know for podcasting. Condenser microphones are generally more sensitive, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. Right now, I'm using this dynamic microphone, the Rode Procaster, and this condenser microphone, the Rode NT1A. In my opinion, most people would be better off using a dynamic microphone. I'd probably only recommend a condenser microphone to podcasters and streamers who don't have a noisy or echoey room. Another thing you should consider as a podcaster or live streamer is the ergonomics of the microphone. Right here, I've got a Shure SM58, and over here, I've got the Shure SM7B. Both of these mics sound pretty good. In fact, they sound quite similar. One main difference is that the SM7B is yoke mounted, which is a huge benefit for anyone who's going to be mounting it to a boom arm. I'd recommend getting a microphone with either a built-in yoke mount or a mic with a shock mount, because they're much easier to adjust and position correctly. If you'll be recording long conversations or sessions, make sure you get something that's easy to adjust so that you can change positions throughout the long conversation. These two microphones also have pretty good handling noise isolation, so when you want to move the microphone in the middle of a podcast, you can do so without causing too much rumble and noise as you might experience with some other microphones. That actually brings me to my next point. Save room in your budget for some additional accessories. This is the Electro-Voice RE20, which is currently my favorite choice for recording my voice. However, this mic only comes with the microphone itself and a small mic clip. In order to really get the most out of this microphone, I needed to buy a few extra accessories. First of all, using a regular microphone stand for a podcast is not ideal. A floor-standing mic stand is awkward to place when you're sitting at a desk, and a desk-standing microphone stand just gets in the way. So a desk-mounted microphone arm is something you'll probably want to work into your budget. Second, the clip that comes with the RE20 isn't great if you plan to move the mic around. It's much better to use a shock mount that's designed for the RE20, but that comes at an additional cost, so make sure you work it into the budget. And third, some microphones, such as the Shure SM7B, have very low sensitivity, which means that they require a lot of preamp gain to get a good level recording. Luckily, the LEWITT Connect 6 has very powerful preamps that supply more than enough gain for pretty much any microphone. Plus, I project my voice and I speak loudly into the microphone, which means that I don't need as much preamp gain as someone who speaks quietly. If you speak quietly and you use a low sensitivity microphone like the Shure SM7B, you may want to consider something like a cloud lifter or a similar inline preamp that adds a bit of extra gain to the signal. You can find links to everything I've mentioned in this video in the description below, including the mics, the audio interface, and the accessories. If you want to support the channel, that's one of the best ways to do so. When you buy something using those links, a small portion goes to Audio University at no additional cost to you. Before you go, leave me a comment below to let me know which microphone you choose so that I can make more content featuring those microphones in the future. Thanks for watching.